passing, smiling, holding each other's eyes. Floors and walls gone. Two people in a universe of space and stars. And then one day I began to discover that we were more alone than I had dreamed. It was a Thursday. Normally on that day, after third period, Stargirl and I would pass each other on the second floor around the teacher's lounge. We would smile and say hi and continue on our separate classes. On this day, impulsively, I fell in alongside her. "How about an escort?" I said. She grinned slyly. "Anybody in mind?" We touched little fingers and walked on. Her next class was on the first floor, so we went down the nearest stairway. We were walking side by side, and that's when I noticed. No one spoke to us. No one nodded to us. Nobody smiled at us. Nobody looked at us. A crowded stairway, and no shoulder, no sleeve brushed us. Students climbed the steps, veered onto the railing or the wall. Except for Stargirl jabbering in my ear, the usual raucous chatter was absent. Mostly what I noticed were the eyes. Faces turned up from the steps below, but the eyes never connected with us. They went right on through as if they were gamma rays. Or they nipped our ears and rattled off among the walls and other eyes. I had the urge to look down at myself, to make sure I was there. At lunch, I said to Kevin, "Nobody looks at me." Kevin was staring at his sandwich. "Kevin," I snapped, "now you're doing it." He came up laughing. He looked at me square in the eyes. "Sorry." Usually there were others at our table. Today there was only us. I leaned across my lunch. "Kevin, what's going on?" He looked off, then back to me. "I was wondering what you'd notice. Kinda hoping you wouldn't." "Notice what?" He stalled by taking a bite of his tuna salad sandwich. He took his time chewing. He drank the orangeade from a straw. "First of all, it's not you." I pulled back. I held out my hands. "It's not me? What's that supposed to mean?" "It's who you're with." I sat there, blinking, staring at him. "Stargirl?" He nodded. "Okay," I said. "So?" He stared at me some more, chewed, swallowed, sipped, looked away, looked back. "They're not talking to her." The words didn't stick. "What do you mean? Who's they?" He cocked his head to the sea of tables and eaters. "Them. Who's them?" I said, too unhinged to laugh at my grammar. He wet his lips. "All of them." He shrugged. "Well, almost." His eyes drifted over my shoulder. There's still two girls sitting with her. I glanced back. At the height of Stargirl's popularity, kids had been piling from other tables to squeeze in around her. Now it was just Stargirl, Dory Dilson, and a ninth grader. "So?" I said. "Exactly what's going on?" He sipped from his straw. "The silent treatment is going on. Nobody's talking to her." It still wasn't sticking. "What do you mean nobody's talking to her?" "What, did everybody have a meeting in the gym and vote on it?" "It wasn't official. It just happened. Got up steam." I gaped at him. "What? When? When did it start? How? Why?" I was beginning to screech. "I don't know exactly. After the basketball stuff, I guess. That really ticked off a lot of people." "The basketball stuff?" He nodded. "The basketball stuff," I repeated dumbly. He put down his sandwich. "Leo, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. Cheering for the other team? What did you think? People were gonna think that was cute?" "It was her, Kevin. It was harmless. Weird maybe, but harmless. It was her." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's not just one thing she did, it's everything. Don't tell me you never noticed. Remember a certain tomato? Kevin, a couple months ago, everybody stood and cheered in the auditorium when she won the oratorical contest." "Hey," he gestured defensively, "tell them. One person threw the tomato. One." Kevin snickered. "Yeah, and 1,000 wanted to. Did you notice the cheers when it happened? People blame her for the team losing. For our undefeated season going down the toilet." I wasn't sure Kevin was still talking about them. "Kevin," I felt myself pleading, She was only a cheerleader. Leo, he was pointing, you asked me what was going on. I told you. He stood up and took his tray to the belt. I stared at his empty chair until he returned. Kevin, the happy birthday songs, the Valentine cards, all the nice things she does for people. Doesn't that count for something? The bell rang. He got up, gathered his books. He shrugged. I guess not. For the rest of the day, and the next, I grew increasingly paranoid. Walking with her in and around in school, I was intensely aware of the nature of our aloneness. I was no longer in a cozy tunnel of love, sweetness, but a chilling isolation. We never had to veer, never had to make way for someone else. Everyone made a way for us. Hallway crowds fell away from us, except for Hillary Kimball. Whenever we passed her, she tilted towards us with a gloating smirk on her face. As for Stargirl, she didn't seem to notice. She still jabbered constantly in my ear. While I smiled and nodded to her, frost formed on the back of my neck. That was 18.